need to answer.
Yeah.
And how do you go about it, in the right way? Because even if you go to some people that are considered learned, they might have like skewed understanding of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is another really important question. After this, let's break for Salah. But essentially, you have to be on the search for people of knowledge who you trust, whose opinions, whose approach, whose language, whose appearance, sincerity you trust, and develop those relationships, right? And a lot of times they're going to tell you, I don't know, right? Sometimes they're going to have a very, very, very direct answer for a lot of questions. Sometimes they'll have a complicated answer for questions, but the point is that's what you need to do first, is keep looking for people whose opinions, understandings of things that you trust. And how do you trust them? In whatever way you decide. You trust their intellect. They seem to live in the world that you live in. They seem to understand the questions that you're raising. Right?
It also proves the validity of these, because if everything was fabricated and everything was flowery, these things wouldn't be there.
That's a really nice point. He's
a human being.
If it was all fake, then you wouldn't have these types of questions.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So is there an explanation for every hadith?
There are explanations for every hadith, but you may not like the explanations, right? Meaning, part of like the issue in terms of how we understand the deen, we're also in our modern Western suburban lens, right? I make a point in many circles that there's no person who can honestly call themselves a pacifist, anti-war living in America. It's a complete contradiction, because you're living in an economy, in a society that is privileging itself based on destruction of the rest of the world, right? So I can tell myself 1,000 times that I'm a tree hugger and I love peace and all that, but if I live in America, it's a contradiction. It's a walking contradiction. You see the point that I'm making? Yeah. And so the wider point being that we have this modern Western suburban sensibility that we are so civil, okay? And all these things that happened in the past are all savage, but this modern Western sensibility allows us to ignore all the horrific things we do. And even if you turn on the news and go through a daily newspaper, look at how many people have been killed. Okay? In our minds, we take that as, okay, that's the anomaly, that's not the norm, and that's correct. But the problem is, we pretend that as though it doesn't happen in our imagination. And so one of the hard things to do is to break out of that shell. Because deen is addressing reality for what it is, with all the unhappy, difficult things too, right? And that's what the Prophet, peace be upon him, was speaking about. I mean, there's some things that happened at the time of the Quraysh that we would say, okay, that's inhumane. And I think there's things that happen in our era, in our society, within a 100-mile radius, that the Quraysh would probably be shocked by. Right? I mean, that we have a myth of civility as though time has advanced and we're more civil. And I think breaking out of that lens and looking at the world for what it is, I think automatically addresses a lot of concerns. Okay, let's take a break. And then I guess we should probably pause this.
Yeah.
We have people